Alright YouTube, in this video we are going to see how to change the font size, background color and text color with the help of the input field. Fine, you can see these are the color picker. If you want, I can change any color. This is a background color and this is a font color, the text color which will change with the help of JavaScript. These are getting done because of the variables which we are going to use in the CSS. You will get the source code in the description, and the steps which we would be discussing is also will be in the description. Fine. These are the steps which we are going to follow, and in this course we are going to know some of the key JavaScript terms, which is dataset and variables in CSS, and how to add listener to all input field. Fine. This is a page you will get in the description, and mine is in the desktop. You can see inside a folder. In the desktop there is a folder and I have only one file, which would be index.html. Here in this file we are going to start from scratch, and here there would be CSS, HTML tags and script in the single file. Fine, let's define the HTML first. I'm going to have a heading, and this heading would just say simply hello, and this is a tag, this is the element, or you can say h2. This is the heading which we would change the background color, the font size and the text color. To change the background color, first of all we need input type equal to color. So we would be having three inputs: input field, two for color picker and one the range slider. Please note the name. This name is very important because this name is the variable we will be using in the CSS. Now in this case I'm using BG color. This is for the background color. I'm doing the same for the font color, which is the text color. Please note I'm changing the name because this would be the variable I would be using in the CSS. Again, we are going to have a slider, input type equal to range, and there would be two attributes, which is max and min. So my default font size here I'm going to keep it as 30 pixel. So the minimum value would be from 30 and the maximum value would be of 90. And I would be giving name because this name is the variable name of in the CSS I would be using. Fine. Now let me add a label to it. So here it would be font size. So if you refresh, this is what you're getting. Let me add BR for the input field. Actually I have added already, so let me remove it. Fine. If you refresh, all your input field will be one by one, and this would be having a class called my style, and it's not a style, it's a class. And I would be defining this class in the head section because there would be little bit of CSS. That's the reason I'm not using external style sheet. I'm just using the internal. Fine, I'm styling it. As you know, we are going to change background color, the font color and the font size. So this is how we define. It's a class. Fine, if you see there, the background color has appeared, and now the color, the text color, which would be red, and we will need the font size. Let's make it align center, so the heading would be in the center. This is just a demonstration. You can add any HTML element here. The font size, let's make it 30 pixel, or 30 pixel. Fine. Now we want the variable to get dynamically change. So for that, instead of the hard code value, I'm going to use the variable over here. This is how we use variable in CSS with the help of variable, and we would be passing the variable name inside the bracket. So the prefix would be dash dash. As I said, the name attribute is our variable name, so we can change very easily. Fine, this is how we define variable. This is not defining, this is initializing. To define variable, I'm going to define the variable for the root element. The root is HTML. So define this. We are going to define this variable. So by default it would be red. and the by default value for font color is, it's a font color, that's not a pixel, sorry for that. And now the font size, the variable name font size would have the default value of 30 pixel. Let me make it yellow, and this would be 30 pixel. Fine. So this value will be high. Here I am defining, and in the my style it is getting initialized. Fine. Now it's absolutely working fine. Now our job is to change the variable with the help of JavaScript. So we have completed the two steps. We have defined the root and we have defined the CSS and defined a variable. Now it's time to have a query selector. Why do we need query selector? The query selector is because we want all the input field in an array. So query selector all, what it will do is it will select all the input field and store it inside an array. So let me show you inside the script tag. So document dot to in the current document doc, as I said, we are going to use query selector to get array, to get all the input value. Document dot query selector all. Since we have more than one input field, I'm using query selector all. So this will give you an array. Let me store it into a variable called inputs. And now just to show you, if I console log the input, you will get the array. Console.log, and inside I'm going to pass the variable input. So with the help of query selector all, you will get the array. You see 0, 1 and 2. And now you can see the prototype. It says you can use, with the help of prototype, it says you can use foreach. So I'm going to use foreach. So by using foreach, what will happen is I will get one by one value. Since we have 3 input field, the foreach will run one time for every input field. So what do we need? We need to add a listener. This listener is simply change. So I'm saying add listener. We are going to add listener to every input field with the help of foreach. Input dot add which is not input. The variable name is one by one dot add event listener, which is change. And in the second parameter, we will be passing a function, and this function will dynamically change the variable names. Fine. Now let me give the function name as get all input values. So we have called the function, but we haven't initialized it. So this is how we use arrow function, just by taking the function keyword and adding arrow. It says this is not initialized, so we have to create this function. So this function will simply get all the values. So let me define the function first. So this dot name, so this is simply the input field dot name. So it will give the input field name. Let me console it and show it to you. This is simply means we have added an on click listener, because it will give you the current input field, and it will give you the name of the input field. So if I change, you can see the font size. If I change the background color, you can change the BG color, which is the name. If I change the font color, it says font color. So I'm getting the name perfectly. Now let's check whether we are getting the value of the input field right or not. So I hope it would be fine. If I change, you can see font size and 65, which is a number. So name and value is working fine for the range slider. Now what we are going to do is we are going to use setProperty to add style to the root. As you have defined root, the root is simply the HTML. To get the HTML in the JavaScript, document element is the HTML. We would be calling the HTML, and we are going to add the style, and this style will set the property. We have already added a logic, that is the name of the input field is equal to the name of the variable. So set the name of the input field, this dot name, and in the second value it would be simply the value. So just by changing the name in input field won't change the CSS variable. So for that, we already know there is a prefix dash dash, so we need to pass as a first argument, and we need to append the dash dash to it. So if you see the font size, the value should have changed. Let me console and check. Since it's a pixel, I have added pixel to it. Yes, it is working absolutely fine, but the color won't work because we have appended pixel. The color is not a pixel over here. The color is simply the hard coded value. We need to remove this pixel. So for that, we would be using the data sizing attribute to only the slider, which is the range slider. This is because this input will only have the pixel value, and else both of them won't have. Let me check console log to get the data value, data sizing. This your data set will give you the attribute that is starting from data. So if you see, it says pixel sizing pixel. To access the pixel, what you have to do is this dot dataset dot sizing, so it will give you the value pixel. So now you can see the pixel value is showing up. Now I will store this value into a variable called suffix, and if this is pixel, give me pixel. If it is not, it will give you undefined. So instead of undefined, I want the null. So this is how we defined. Then let me add the suffix over here. So if there is any value, it will show me pixel. If there is no value, it will simply show me blank space. So this is working absolutely fine. Get the source code in the description. Thank you so much for listening.